Preparing to live stream the meeting. This meeting is being live streamed. Are you ready, Christine?
I am ready.
Delightful. Preparing to live stream the meeting. This meeting is being live streamed. Are you ready, Christine? I love the playback that proves that it is in fact working. Hello, friends. All right, now I have our live up on my phone so that I can monitor the chat for any questions that may come in as folks start to trickle in and join the live stream. And today, as I'm so happy that you said yes to joining me, Christine. And I am like, friends, if you are new to Group Tarot's YouTube station, welcome. How everything fell together for this live could not have been more perfect, because I go live on the 10th of every month. And I knew that Christine's book, Scott Cunningham, The Path Taken, Honoring a Wiccan Trailblazer. I keep wanting to say Wiccan Warrior because of another book, and it's not. Your book is The Wiccan Trailblazer, which Scott was. And I gave her a few date options, and she was like, oh, September 10th. It like ties in with the book launch. And I'm like, brilliant. What I didn't realize it also tied in with, and did you realize this also, Christine, that it's Pagan Pride Day?
No, I had no idea. No idea. That's great.
Here's to Kismet.
Cheers, baby.
So for if you are not familiar with Christine, she is a prolific writer. She has a huge career in the romance industry and other industries. Yes, or am I misremembering that?
I have one nonfiction book out, but it's a book collection of essays called Where the Pearls and Other Bits of Wisdom.
Ooh, delightful.
Yeah.
And now she is here to chat about her newest book on Scott Cunningham, who was a huge influence to me personally. Yeah, so I am just tickled that you were willing to join me and chat today, and that we just happened to sit next to each other at the Northwest Tarot Symposium to listen to Mary Kay Greer's keynote speech.
Yeah, 2018.
Right. 2018. Yeah, 5 years now.
5 years.
So one of the things you talk about in the book that I love, and we were talking a little bit about it before we went live, is the private side of Scott. Like, that's one of the things that gets reiterated a lot. And
yeah.
So and so I'm curious to know about your process of handling of how you chose to put into the book what you did, what may have stayed off the table for privacy reasons, and how you navigated that flow, because it's also your family. So in talking about Scott's life, you're also talking about your life. So I also imagine that there were some, maybe I don't want that to be known about me sort of thing also in there.
Frankly, I let it out, all of it. It's all on the table. Anything that's not there is either because I don't know about it, Like his private life, I don't know anything about his private life. I have no clue as to who he dated, what he did, where, when, with who. I don't know any of the secrets of the traditions that he was initiated into. I don't know anything. So, so this is all from our childhood, from growing up together, from our, I don't paint myself in a very good light sometimes because it was the truth. There were times when I did things that I regret now, but can't take them back. So yeah, it's all there, and anything that's not there, anything that was in the book originally that's not there now, is because it didn't relate directly to Scott. So like, gotcha. I had stuff about our grandparents in there that didn't really belong because it didn't directly affect Scott. So I took all that out. But other than that, no, everything's there.
What was it like reliving so many of those childhood memories as you went to write the book? Like, and I like, if there are parts of this you don't want to answer, I so respect that, because I lost my father recently, and I know what it has been like for me, like going back and seeing the pictures and such, and like, what, and all of the emotions coming up. And so like, what was it like for you going on that deep dive on memory lane, and how did you take care of your heart and spirit if and when you needed to?
Yeah, it was, at times it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun to remember the good times. And it was painful to remember the bad times. The bad times have never been not remembered. Those things don't go away. And I cried. Writing several sections of the book. I did not sit down and write the whole thing in 6 weeks. It took me 4 years, because I would write a really, really hard section and then walk away from it for 2-3 months.
Good. That sounds very smart and very healthy.
Or you could look at it as that I wasn't disciplined enough to sit.
No, I think that disciplined idea is a militaristic, capitalistic idea that can be cut, like that death card that we pulled earlier, and be like, yep, yeah. Nope, bye-bye. I also cried reading it more than a few times. And are you okay if some book spoilers come into this? Okay.
It's not like we don't all know the ending of Scott's story. It's not like we don't all know the ending of Romeo and Juliet, so
that is fair, but I'm where I'm going, I like to check in about the spoilers. So spoiler alert. So if you don't want to hear any spoilers, fast forward a bit. I don't know how long, because this is live, but turn your ears off for a minute, and I will make a teddy bear dance when it is safe to watch again or listen again. The piece of the book that really had me bawling were two. One was the image of, oh gosh, I'm trying. One was the image of Scott holding a teddy bear in the hospital, and the other was his death. Because as a queer person, I was a little young to have been like fully impacted by the AIDS epidemic of the 80s and 90s, but I remember it.
Yeah.
And I had, and at that time, I was with a group, City Kids Foundation, and I had ensemble members who had AIDS and, early years of AZT and such. And it was still seemingly a death sentence. And so many of them were not accepted by their family.
Yeah.
And the fact that your book shows that a gay man dying of AIDS at that time could have his parents beside him with love and support is just the picture and
Yeah.
the experience that so many people didn't get.
Yeah.
And that that you have now gifted the world with an example of that, to be like, I can't I cannot tell you how much that means to have that example in the world, and to know that even when so much horrible stuff was happening and that so many people were estranged and still are estranged, that
Yeah.
there can still be that simple hand holding.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. The teddy bear, when our grandmother Hazel died in 1991, February 14th, Valentine's Day, 1991, Scott was in Hawaii. So he couldn't come up for the memorial service. And so I went, my mom and dad went. Greg couldn't get off work. And so my grandmother made a lot of dolls and teddy bears and Applehead doll. I mean, she was a creator. She sewed quilts. She sewed a lot of my Barbie doll dresses, which were absolutely gorgeous. I wish I still had them, but I don't.
You could have taken them to the Barbie movie.
Yeah, right. And she was specialized in these teddy bears that were about, 18, 20 inches tall. And we picked out a lot of the stuffed animals and stuffed things and brought them back with us. And Scott picked out that teddy bear. And it sat on his bed, and because the dolls weren't really his aesthetic, but the teddy bear fit.
Fair.
And when we saw him in the nursing home, just weeks before he died, the nurse had changed the linens on his bed without him getting out of it. It's amazing how they can do that.
Right.
And was straightening up, and the room was huge. It was big enough for 4 patients, but he was the only one in there. And the teddy bear was sitting on a chair, and he was blind at this point. He couldn't see. So she was about ready to leave, and he said, "I need my teddy bear." I mean, you could hear the panic in his voice. And she gave it to him, and then she waited until then to say, "And you have visitors," which was nice, because otherwise it would have been a little too weird, I think, while she was cleaning up. And so yeah, that was the teddy bear story. He loved that thing. He clung to it.
One of the ways books are so powerful is to have that, like, oh, it's not just me moments.
Yeah.
I have the one time I had to go in for surgery, having hysterectomy, I was like, can I bring my teddy bear to the hospital? Are they gonna, I want something nice and soft and squishy when I wake up from a procedure. And they were like, yes. And so, and I always was like, I am strange about that. And here's your little teddy bear dance. So it is safe to hear. Now we are not talking about any more spoilers for the moment. And yeah, I was like, I'm just weird, and that's fine. I don't mind. And then I read that, and I'm like, oh, Scott Cunningham, one of my like founding ancestors of craft, whose books I have read and scoured so often. Also, it was just one of those like surprising like things.
Yeah.
So what these conversations are always so interesting because they never flow the same way, and what people want to talk about or don't want to talk about, changes and flows and such. And my eyes keep being drawn to the cards that were pulled before we went live. And I don't know, like, what are some of the things that you hope, and so trying to form the thoughts here. One of, people talk a lot about how Scott was the first one that really created encyclopedias for practitioners by practitioners, that he shared knowledge and experiences with Wicca and the path for anybody to be able to listen. And in your book launches yesterday, Amy talked a little bit about this, of how solitary practitioner and earth power and witchcraft today and such were for many of us that like, oh, I'm not alone moments. And so do you think that, and I recognize that trying to contemplate intention on someone who has passed on is nigh on impossible, but I'm curious if you feel like I'm curious if you feel like you know or have a sense of the intention. Like, was it just because he had such a tangible connection with the earth that he wanted to get the books out? Was it because he saw a need and wanted to help fill it? Was it something else entirely? Or you're like, yeah, I got no idea. Does
No.
that make sense? That was a very like
no, I get you.
Fortuitous round for a question.
I gotcha. When he started, I mean, we talked a little bit about this with Storm yesterday, Fairy Wolf. When Storm was 13 or 14, he would go to the library, the reference library at his town, and pull out Scott's herbal encyclopedia and take notes, because you couldn't check that book out. It was reference only. So he would take notes and And when I think back, Scott started learning around the same age that Storm did at 13, 14, but there were no reference books for him to check out. And the ones that were difficult to parse through. And it took him a while to find the people that could teach him. And a lot of what he learned, he also got from corresponding with shops that sold the resins and the, you know, the incenses and the incense ingredients and stuff like that on the East Coast, because there was nothing in California. So he knew how difficult it was for him to come by this knowledge. And he was in San Diego, which, okay, yes, is a very conservative town. It's a Navy town. It's a military town. So it is on the conservative side. But what about the people in the Midwest, or, you know, the deep South, where religion held sway, the Christianity held sway, and Lord help you if you think differently on any subject. So he really felt this was something he had to do. He had to share this knowledge. It was very important for him. And I know that because we talked a couple years before he died, and he knew he was sick and he knew he was going to die, even though he was fighting it. He knew. And he was just like so frustrated that he didn't have enough time to get all the books written that he wanted to write, that he didn't have enough time to learn everything he wanted to learn. And he worked hard until he couldn't see anymore. You know, he worked very hard to get that last book on Hawaii out. He took on projects and wrote them very quickly. He did a couple with Crossing Road Press, and did them very quickly in order to get more information out. So it was an altruistic thing, but it was also, writing was the way he made his living. So he was writing on things that gave him joy and gave him passion and gave him purpose, which I think if you can live your life in a job that gives you joy, passion, and purpose, you're halfway to nirvana, seriously. And so, yeah, that I know, and I believe that that's why he wrote the books, to help other people.
They have helped so many people. I am in preparation for today. Normally I would be holding up, you know, Christine's book, but it is lost in the mail, sadly. I know. And so where can people purchase it if they want to? Do you have an affiliate link through Wise? Say the publisher, because I want to make sure I don't get it wrong. It is Wise. Okay,
yeah.
great.
Yeah. No, I don't. I just don't.
Just buy it through Wiser.
But Madame Pamita's Parlor of Wonders, if you want a signed copy, order through her. It's not going to cost you any extra. It's just her warehouse is 20 minutes down the road from me. I can go down there and sign copies weekly. If you want a book plate, if you already have your copy and want a signed book plate, there is I still haven't put it on my website yet, but I will. If you go to my Facebook page, either one, and kind of scroll down a little bit, you'll find a signed, yes, I want a signed book plate form on Google Docs, and you fill that out and that'll give me your address and how you want it signed and what kind of book plate you want. And then I'll get that in the mail. I've got 8 going out in the mail today. So that was fun. And you get a chance to sign up for my newsletter, which I haven't really started yet. So
Well, there you go.
too.
And we will put all of the links to all of the things in the description box below.
Yeah. But other than that, any retailer, any big any real retailer should carry it. Amazon, Barnes and Noble. You can get it on Kobo, I believe, all the ebooks. Hopefully, Tantor did buy the audio rights, but we haven't gotten that squared away yet. So hopefully that'll happen soon.
Awesome. I have it up on Group Tarot's bookshop as well, but I wanted to make sure that the plug was one that would help you directly, since this is your interview. Like what we still have some time. What else would you like to talk about? I kind of feel, because I feel like we've gotten a good I feel like we've gotten a good amount of information about the book and such out there. And so, like, what's next? Whether that is, fun book related stuff or stuff completely like, I'm going on vacation.
Well, I am kind of going on vacation. I'm going to the UK Tarot Conference in October.
Nice.
And I'm doing a book signing there, as well as a book signing on Monday, October 9th, 2:30 to 5 p.m. Through the auspices of the Atlantis Bookshop, which is the oldest metaphysical bookshop in England, if not the world. I'm not quite sure about the last one, but it's been continuously owned by the same family for over 100 years. So that's pretty exciting.
Yes.
And, yeah, taking my husband with me, so I have a travel companion.
Excellent.
And
will you be going around other parts of England? Will you go to Stonehenge, Avebury?
Probably not. We get in on Wednesday. I have a pre-conference dinner Thursday night, and the conference is Friday and Saturday. And then we have Sunday off, and then Monday's the book signing, and we leave Tuesday. So it's kind of, we're probably going to stay just in the city, spend a lot of time at the British Museum, as one does.
Absolutely. And you also may find the Horniman Museum interesting. It is also in London, and it was started by the Horniman family, and Annie Horniman is one of the founding members of the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. She's one of the four mothers, and so it was her father who collected all of the things in true colonialist fashion, and collected so much that it turned into a museum. And it is beautiful, and they have a fantastic library and gorgeous grounds. I highly recommend taking a jaunt there and feeling around if you can be like, I think Annie might have done some ritual over here. Because I know I had fun doing that, and I think you might enjoy that too.
Yeah, absolutely. I wrote it down, and I'll make sure to put that on the agenda.
Yeah.
And writing wise,
yes.
I'm working on a series of how do I put this? It's paranormal slow burn mystery romance, if that makes sense. So yeah, I don't have a contract for it yet. So I'm not going to say anything more than that, but I hope to get the first couple books out next year. And along the nonfiction side of things, I'm still thinking about it. I don't know what I want to do.
That's fair.
Oh.
When you write, I am most familiar with your fiction writing.
Mhm.
Mm, but I don't know your canon well enough. Um, is it an even split? Do you like have a preference writing fiction over nonfiction? Like, how's
Oh,
that dance go for you?
it's not an even split. I have 4 books out in the Kane Brothers series, which is a paranormal series about 3 brothers who are human, demon, and fae. So they have all 3 bloodlines running through them, and they have to come to terms with what each of those bloodlines gives them, both good and the bad, in order to beat the bad guy and win the girl. So yeah, so that's up. Um, and then there's a contemporary romance series that's up called the Startide Agency series.
Mhm.
And there is a Christmas novella that I just love called Christmas Star. And it's short, it's cute, it's sweet. I think it's like 99 cents. It's adorable. And then there's 3 other books, uh, Guarded Star, Star Crossed, and Rising Star. And that's
Mm.
about the entertainment industry and the people that, I mean, everything from rock and roll to movies to stand-up comedy. And yeah, so it's fun. It's a fun series.
Mm. And so, are you a full-time writer?
Oh, goodness, no.
Mm.
I have a day
I
job.
kind of knew the answer to that question, but I figure some of the watchers here probably don't. So, and before you finish answering that question, if you have questions, type them in the chat. Introduce yourselves by all means. So,
Yeah,
we're like, goodness no.
goodness, no. I have a day job. I've had a day job most of my life. And this one, I am so grateful to have. I got it 9 months after I had brain surgery. So I was still a little out there. And I had a broken leg. I mean, and they hired me anyway. So that was kind of, I had to do full disclosure. It's a small hydrogeology firm. And I'm the secretary there. And I do the billings and help with proposals and clean water wells, basically, up and down the state of California. So it's really interesting. And I've learned a lot.
I was going to say hydrogeology, just from my just from thinking about the word. Obviously, water is involved and rocks are involved in some sense. So it's about wells.
Yeah, it's finding the water in the rocks. It's basically, to put it simplistically. Yeah.
And was that something, was that a line of work that you were drawn to because of your own connections with the earth, or was it just happenstance? Or
Every single job I've ever gotten outside of when I was very young and doing temp work, every job I've ever gotten has been through the kindness of a friend. And this one, I was working at Coldwater Creek and then got diagnosed with a acoustic neuroma covering the auditory nerve and the facial nerve on my right side. So I ended up having to leave there in order to have surgery. And then I was on disability for quite a while after that. And the doctors were like, oh, 3 months, you'll be fine. It took me 3 years to fully recover because all of a sudden they had to go through my eustachian tube. So I have no hearing in this ear. Well, when you lose hearing in one ear, you have no sense of echolocation, and balance is more difficult.
mm-hmm.
So it took me a solid 3 years to recover from that. So when I put out into the universe in 2011 that I needed a job, a dear friend of mine named Tally, we had done theater together, and she said, "Hey, you still need a job?" She called me. "Do you still need a job?" I said, "Yes, very much so. Thank you. I need a job." And she said, "Because the firm upstairs from me just lost their secretary. The one they had, the secretary they had was retiring, and they had hired somebody new who was like 25, 26, 27. She left a week before she was supposed to start for a better job elsewhere." So,
As happens.
yeah, as happens. So I said, "Yeah." And she said, "Here, call this number." So I called it. They called me in for an interview that afternoon. And then the next day I was going on vacation for a week. But I got an email that said, "We'd like you to come in the Monday after you get back from your vacation for a second interview." And when I told my friend Tally that, she said, "Oh, honey, be prepared to stay. Just be prepared to stay." And I had had a lot of secretarial background in my life.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so it was serendipity, and it's a great group of people to work with. I was a bit of a handful for the first 3 years, I will admit, but they stuck with me, and I am so grateful they did.
One of the things that we talk about in the acting and theater communities a lot, as you are probably also well aware, is how having a wide and diverse life experience feeds the work, feeds your ability to be a better creator, more empathetic, more realistic, all of those things. How have you found your outside of writing work to feed or balance your writing work? Or have you?
It feeds it. It doesn't balance, because I always spend more time at the day job than I do writing. And part of that is because I know people who write 8 hours a day. I'm not one of those who can, unless something is running white hot and the writing is easy. I think the last time it was easy for me to write was in 2008, August 15th, 2008. I sat down and wrote almost 10,000 words that day, because this idea was white hot, and I just went. But I don't do that on a normal day. I can't. There's too much else going on in life. So whenever I can get the words down and they come easy, I'm very grateful.
It's fair. So what do you do when they don't come easy?
I don't write. That's not true. I write, or I start from the very beginning and read what I've written. And usually I'll add more descriptives in, because I have in my fiction, I have a horrible habit of writing characters, and I don't have a setting for them, and they're not wearing any clothes. So I usually have to go back and say, okay, so what is this? What is she wearing? What is he wearing? How can I put this in without it seeming boring, And
so it's not just, this is what they're wearing today. It is the glint of that necklace caught my eye from across the room, or what have you.
Or the cut of his suit fit him so well, something like that. So yeah, it can be a slow process. And I like having written more than I like writing. I like the editing process better than the original draft, because the editing process is where you get to layer in the emotions, you get to layer in the little tidbits that'll come up later on in the book. You get to layer in scenery and sounds, sight, scent, touch, taste, all the senses, which I find a lot of the books that I wish were better are chintzy on those details. They don't immerse the reader in the sights, the sounds, the scents, the sight, yes, but everything else, not so much. And I think if every author could learn that one trick and know how to season their book correctly, not over season it, but sprinkle it in at the right places at the right times, that their writing will improve 100%.
Well, your gift for that comes through beautifully in your book, Scott Cunningham, The Path Taken, because like I was there with you. I was there with you on the road trips. I was there with you in the woods. I was there with you in the hospital rooms. I was there with you in the nursing homes. And there was something in particular about how you described the smell of the nursing home. Oh, I suppose I should have done a spoilers thing.
That's okay.
Spoilers. There was something in how you like wrote that passage that I knew exactly what that smell was. And what was interesting to me was, sometimes when I'm reading work, I am immersed in the world and imagining things that I have experience with, and I'm just sort of like modifying it for what the author is doing. And I've spent a good amount of time in nursing homes, from my great grandmother and my grandmother and my father briefly for a time, but mostly after his accident, he was in like hospitals or home. And each one of those nursing homes had a slightly different but similar smell. And so what you described for the nursing home Scott was in was like, oh, yep, that's that similarity, but it's different, and it has this other little flavor to it. It's like the difference between using spearmint, chocolate mint, or winter mint. Like,
Yeah.
They are all mints and they have that similar baseline, but the chocolate, the spearmint, and the winter mint, like, it makes a difference. And you're so skilled at that.
Oh, thank you.
Well, it does not look like there are any questions in the chat right now, although someone is sending us lots of love. So thank you for that. How would you like to close this out, my friend?
Oh, well, I think above all, Scott was a person who gave everyone respect and dignity and the kindness that they deserved. And if we could all do that, how much nicer a place this world would be. He was a good man. He wasn't perfect by any means. None of us are perfect. But he was a good man. I miss him.
Yeah. I would give you a big old hug if I could.
So that's pretty much it. That's all I got.
Well, thank you. Thank you for spending part of your Sunday here chatting with me, and for our listeners and watchers out there now and in the future. If do purchase or request at your local library, because part of how our libraries buy things is because they are requested by people like you. And so if you want books like Scott Cunningham, The Path Taken, in your library, ask for it. Make sure that you like and subscribe if you want to hear more from authors and deck creators and deck reviews. I go live on the 10th of the month, and next month for October, I will be going through Barbara Moore's Trick or Treat Tarot, and then in November for my birthday month, I will be talking about, have you seen this, Christine?
Oh.
Okay, little teaser. It's so good. It's so one of my friends, Spiral, showed it to me when it was still in the when it was still Kickstartering, and I was like, oh, that's amazing. And she ended up getting it for me.
It's perfect. It's beautiful. Oh, wow.
It's so good. So good. So yes, if you this will be November because it's my birthday month, and this is one of my favorite movies of all time. So I figured it was a perfect thing to discuss in my birthday month.
Absolutely.
Christine, thank you. Thank you for your writing. Thank you for your time. Thank you for showing all of the sides and all of the facets, and not being afraid to be like, yeah, I lived with my brother, but I actually don't know because I wasn't at the house most of the time. And yeah, missed opportunity.
Yeah.
Don't know what to say. Like,
oh well.
You know, that's not something that everybody is willing to talk about in ourselves. And so thank you for doing that.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for having me, Kate.
Oh,
great fun.
My pleasure. Anytime you have another project that you want to chat about here, we can happily schedule it. And so until next month, my friends, have a beautiful rest of your day.